Hey there, happy Thursday, and happy April 8th, 8th day of National Poetry Month. Third day of Dante, maybe, I think. Let's see. Yeah, oh my goodness. Third day of the Divine Comedy. We are, of course, starting with Inferno, and I'm reading. Got a hell beast in my house, apparently, who is chasing her bone. Anyway, third day of Inferno, and our third set of 4 cantos, which is what we're reading every night. So we're going to start on canto number 9 and read through canto number 12. It's clearly chaos here, and I am starting late and still have a lot of work to do afterwards. So I am going to just jump in minus the preamble once I turn my phone ringer off. Okay, right. So welcome to the wildness that is Thursday night here in April, when schedules are due to be uploaded in my school app for my advisees, and we're just trying to make it through with the seniors, and it's a moment of wildness. So anyway, Inferno, book 9. I'm going to start again with the explanation and just jump right into the text. Okay, canto 9. After some hindrances and having seen the hellish furies and other monsters, the poet, by the help of an angel, enters the city of, I'm going to just keep calling it Dis, D-I-S. I know that's how that they would pronounce it in Italian, but I really don't know what the English, what the standard like Anglicization would be. But I'm going to just go with Dis, wherein he discovers that heretics are punished in tombs burning with intense fire, and he, together with Virgil, passes onward between the sepulchres and the walls of the city. So, canto 9. That hue which cowardice brought out on me, beholding my conductor backward turn, sooner repressed within him his new color. He stopped attentive, like a man who listens, because the eye could not conduct him far through the black air and through the heavy fog. Still it behooveth us to win the fight, began he, else such offered us herself. Oh, how I longed that someone here arrive. Well, I perceived, as soon as the beginning he covered up with what came afterward, that they were words quite different from the first. But nonetheless, his saying gave me fear, because I carried out the broken phrase, perhaps to a worse meaning than he had. Into this bottom of the doleful conch doth any air descend from the first grade, which for its pain has only hope cut off. This question put I, and he answered me. Seldom it seems to pass that one of us maketh the journey upon which I go. True is it, once before I here below was conjured by that pitiless Erictho, who summoned back the shades unto their bodies. Naked of me short while the flesh had been, before within that wall she made me enter, to bring a spirit from the circle of Judas. That is the lowest region and the darkest, and farthest from the heaven which circles all. Well, know I the way, therefore be reassured. This fin, which a prodigious stench exhales, encompasseth about the city dolent, where now we cannot enter without anger. And more he said, but not in mind I have it. Because mine eye had altogether drawn me towards the high tower with the red flaming summit, wherein a moment saw I swift uprisen the 3 infernal furies, stained with blood, who had the limbs of women and their mien, and with the greenest hydras were begirt. Small serpents and cerastes were their tresses. Therewith their horrid temples were entwined. And he who well the handmaids of the queen of everlasting lamentation knew, said unto me, behold the fierce Erinis. This is Megara, on the left-hand side, she who is weeping on the right, Alecto. Tisiphone is between, and then was silent. Each one her breast was rending with her nails. They beat them with their palms and cried so loud that I, for dread, pressed close unto the poet. Medusa, come, so we to stone will change him. All shouted, looking down. In evil hour avenged we not on Theseus his assault. Turn thyself around and keep thine eyes close shut, for if the Gorgon appear and thou shouldst see it, no more returning upward would there be. Thus said the master, and he turned me round himself and trusted not unto my hands so far as not to blind me with his own. O ye who have undistempered intellects, observe the doctrine that conceals itself beneath the veil of the mysterious verses. And now there came across the turbid waves the clangor of a sound with terror fraught, because of which both of the margins trembled. Not otherwise it was than of a wind impetuous on account of adverse heats that smites the forest, and without restraint the branches rends, beats down, and bears away. Right onward, laden with dust, it goes superb, and puts to flight the wild beasts and the shepherds. Mine eyes he loosed and said, direct the nerve of vision now along that ancient foam. There yonder where that smoke is most intense. Even as the frogs before the hostile serpent across the water scatter all abroad until each one is huddled in the earth, more than 1,000 ruined souls I saw, thus fleeing from before one who on foot was passing o'er the Styx with souls unwet. From off his face he fanned that unctuous air, waving his left hand oft in front of him. With only that, and only with that anguish seemed he weary. Well I perceived one sent from heaven was he, and to the master turned, and he made sign that I should quiet stand and bow before him. Ah, how disdainful he appeared to me. He reached the gate, and with a little rod he opened it, for there was no resistance. O banished out of heaven, people despised. Thus he began upon the horrid threshold. Whence is this arrogance within you couched? Wherefore recalcitrate against that will from which the end can never be cut off, and which has many times increased your pain? What helpeth it to butt against the fates? Your Cerberus, if you remember well, for that still bears his chin and gullet peeled. Then he returned along the miry road and spake no word to us, but had the look of one whom other care constrains and goads than that of him who in his presence is. And we our feet directed towards the city, after whose holy words all confident. Within we entered without any contest, and I, who inclination had to see what the condition such a fortress holds, soon as I was within, cast round mine eye, and see on every hand an ample plain, full of distress and torment terrible. Even as at Arles, where stagnant grows the Rhone, even as at Pola, near the Quarnaro, that shuts in Italy and bathes its borders, the sepulchres make all the place uneven. So likewise did they there on every side, saving that there the manner was more bitter. For flames between the sepulchres were scattered, by which they so intensely heated were, that iron more so asks not any art. All of their coverings uplifted were, and from them issued forth such dire laments, sooth seemed they of the wretched and tormented. And I, my master, what are all those people who, having sepulture within those tombs, make themselves audible by doleful sighs? And he to me, here are the heresiarchs, with their disciples of all sects, and much more than thou thinkest, laden are the tombs. Here like together with its like is buried, and more and less the monuments are heated. And when he to the right had turned, we passed between the torments and high parapets. Canto 10. Dante, having obtained permission from his guide, holds discourse with Farinata degli Uberti and Cavalcanti, who lie in their fiery tombs that are yet open and not to be closed up till after the last judgment. Farinata predicts the poet's exile from Florence and shows him that the condemned have knowledge of future things, but are ignorant of what is at present passing, unless it be revealed by some newcomer from earth. That's interesting. Now onward goes, along a narrow path between the torments and the city wall, my master, and I follow at his back. O power supreme, that through these impious circles turnest me, I began. As pleases thee, speak to me, and my longing satisfied. The people who are lying in these tombs, might they be seen? Already are uplifted the covers all, and no one keepeth guard. And he to me, they all will be closed up when from Jehoshaphat they shall return here with the bodies they have left above. Their cemetery have upon this side with Epicurus all his followers, who with the body mortal make the soul. But in the question thou dost put to me, where within here shalt thou soon be satisfied, and likewise in the wish thou keepest silent. And I, good leader, I but keep concealed from thee my heart, that I may speak the less, nor only now hast thou thereto disposed me. O Tuscan, thou who through the city of fire goest alive, thus speaking modestly, be pleased to stay thy footsteps in this place. Thy mode of speaking makes thee manifest a native of that noble fatherland. Behold, there Farinata, who has risen. From the waist upwards, wholly shalt thou see him. Okay, so you have these people who Dante knew before they died. And I guess they're sitting up in their own graves. Cool. I had already fixed mine eyes on his, and he uprose erect with breast and front, e'en as of hell he had in great despite. And with courageous hands and prompt, my leader thrust me between the sepulchres toward him, exclaiming, let thy words explicit be. As soon as I was at the foot of his tomb, somewhat he eyed me, and as if disdainful, then asked me, who were thine ancestors? I, who desirous of obeying was, concealed it not, but all revealed to him. Whereat he raised his brows a little upward. Then he said, fiercely adverse have they been to me and to my fathers and my party, so that to several times I scattered them. If they were banished, they returned on all sides, I answered him, the first time and the second. But yours have not acquired that art aright. Then there uprose upon the sight uncovered, down to the chin, a shadow at his side. I think that he had risen on his knees. Round me he gazed, as if solicitude he had to see if someone else were with me. But after his suspicion was all spent, weeping, he said to me, if through this blind prison thou goest by loftiness of genius, where is my son? And why is he not with thee? And I to him, I come not of myself. He who is waiting yonder leads me here, whom in disdain perhaps your Guido had. His language and the mode of punishment already unto me had read his name. On that account, my answer was so full. Upstarting suddenly, he cried out, how saidst thou? He had? Is he not still alive? Does not the sweet light strike upon his eyes? When he became aware of some delay, which I before my answer made, supine he fell again, and forth appeared no more. But the other, magnanimous, at whose desire I had remained, did not his aspect change, neither his neck he moved, nor bent his side. And if, continuing his first discourse, they have that art, he said, not learned aright, that more tormenteth me than doth his bed. But 50 times shall not rekindled be the countenance of the lady who reigns here, ere thou shalt know how heavy is that art. And as thou wouldst to the sweet world return, say why that people is so pitiless against my race in each one of its laws. Whence I to him, the slaughter and great carnage which have with crimson stained the Arbia, caused such orisons in our temples to be made. After his head, he with his eye had shaken. There I was not alone, he said, nor surely without a cause had with the others moved. But there I was alone, where every one consented to the laying waste of Florence, he who defended her with open face. Ah, so hereafter may your seed repose, I him entreated, solve for me that knot which has entangled my conceptions here. It seems that you can see, if I hear rightly, beforehand whatsoe'er brings with it, and in the present have another mode. We see, like those who have imperfect sight, the things, he said, that distant are from us. So much still shines on us, the sovereign ruler. When they draw near or are, is wholly vain our intellect, and if none brings it to us, not anything know we of your human state. Hence thou canst understand that wholly dead will be our knowledge from the moment when the portal of the future shall be closed. Then I, as if compunctious for my fault, said, now then, you will tell that fallen one that still his son is with the living joined. And if just now in answering I was done, and if just now in answering I was dumb, tell him I did it because I was thinking already of the error you have solved me. And now my master was recalling me, wherefore more eagerly I prayed to the spirit that he would tell me who was with him there. He said, with more than 1,000 here I lie. Within here is the second Frederick and the cardinal, and of the rest I speak not. Thereon he hid himself. And I towards the ancient poet turned my steps, reflecting upon that saying, which seemed hostile to me. He moved along, and afterward thus going, he said to me, why art thou so bewildered? And I, in this inquiry, satisfied him. Let memory preserve what thou hast heard against thyself, that sage commanded me. And now attend here. And he raised his finger. When thou shalt be before the radiance sweet of her whose beauteous eyes all things behold, from her thou wilt know the journey of thy life. Unto the left hand then he turned his feet. We left the wall and went towards the middle, along a path that strikes unto a valley, which even up there unpleasant made its stench. Canto 11. Dante arrives at the verge of a rocky precipice, which encloses the seventh circle, where he sees the sepulchre of Anastasius, the heretic, behind the lid of which, pausing a little to make himself capable by degrees of enduring the fetid smell that seemed upward from the abyss, he is instructed by Virgil concerning the manner in which the three following circles are disposed, and what description of sinners is punished in each. He then inquires the reason why the carnal, the gluttonous, the avaricious and prodigal, the wrathful and gloomy do not suffer their punishments within the city of Dis. He next asks how the crime of usury is an offense against God, and at length the two poets go toward the place from whence a passage leads down to the seventh circle. Canto 11. Upon the margin of a lofty bank, which great rocks broken in a circle made, we came upon a still more cruel throng. And there, by reason of the horrible excess of stench the deep abyss throws out, we drew ourselves aside behind the cover of a great tomb, whereon I saw a writing which said, Pope Anastasius I hold, whom out of the right way Photinus drew. Slow it behooveth our descent to be, so that the sense be first a little used to the sad blast, and then we shall not heed it. I don't know why that strikes me as funny. It's just so like normal and embodied. Let's go slowly so our nose can get used to how stinky it is down here. And then we will just sort of become smell blind to what we encounter. Because if we go fast, we're not going to be able to handle just how stinky it is. Anyway, I don't know why. It just strikes me as interesting and like really physical. Okay. Smell blinds. The master thus, and unto him I said, some compensation find, that the time pass not idly. And he, thou seest I think of that. My son, upon the inside of these rocks, began he then to say, are three small circles, from grade to grade, like those which thou art leaving. They are all full of spirits maledicts, but that hereafter sight alone suffice thee. Hear now, and wherefore they are in constraint. Of every malice that wins hate in heaven, injury is the end, and all such end, either by force or fraud, afflicteth others. Too quiet. But because fraud is man's peculiar vice, more it displeaseth God, and so stand lowest the fraudulent, and greater dole assails them. All the first circle of the violent is, but since force may be used against three persons in 3 rounds, 'tis divided and constructed. But to God, to ourselves, and to our neighbor can we use force. I say on them and on their things, as thou shalt hear with reason manifest. A death by violence and painful wounds are to our neighbor given, and in his substance ruin and arson and injurious levies, whence homicides and he who smites unjustly, marauders and freebooters, the first round tormenteth all in diverse companies. Man may lay violent hands upon himself and his own goods, And therefore, in the second round, must perforce without avail repent whoever of your world deprives himself, who games and dissipates his property, and weepeth there, where he should jocund be. Violence can be done the deity, in heart denying and blaspheming him, and by disdaining nature and her bounty. And for this reason doth the smallest round seal with its signet Sodom and Cahors, and who, disdaining God, speaks from the heart. Fraud, wherewithal, is every conscience stung. A man may practice upon him who trusts, and him who doth no confidence in verse. This latter mode, it would appear, dissevers only the bond of love which nature makes. Wherefore within the second circle nestle hypocrisy, flattery, and who deals in magic, falsification, theft, and simony, panders and barators, and the like filth. By the other mode, forgotten is that love which nature makes, and what is after added, from which there is a special faith engendered. Hence, in the smallest circle, where the point is of the universe, upon which Dis is seated, whoe'er betrays forever is consumed. And I, my master, clear enough proceeds thy reasoning, and full well distinguishes this cavern and the people who possess it. But tell me, those within the fat lagoon, whom the wind drives, and whom the rain doth beat, and who encounter with such bitter tongues, wherefore are they inside of the red city not punished, if God has them in his wrath? And if he has not, wherefore in such fashion? And unto me he said, why wanders so thine intellect from that which it is wont? Or sooth, thy mind, where is it elsewhere looking? Hast thou no recollection of those words with which thine ethics thoroughly discusses the dispositions three, that heaven abides not, incontinence and malice and insane bestiality? And how incontinence less God offendeth, and less blame attracts? If thou regardest this conclusion well, and to thy mind recallest who they are that up outside are undergoing penance, clearly thou wilt perceive why from these felons they separated are, and why less wroth justice divine doth smite them with its hammer. O sun, that healeth all distempered vision, thou dost content me so when thou resolvest that doubting pleases me no less than knowing. Once more a little backward turn thee, said I, there where thou sayest that usury offends goodness divine, and disengage the knot. Philosophy, he said, to him who heeds it, noteth not only in one place alone after what manner nature takes her course from intellect divine and from its art. And if thy physics carefully thou notest, after not many pages shalt thou find that this your art as far as possible follows, as the discipline doth the master, so that your art is, as it were, God's grandchild. From these two, if thou bringest to thy mind Genesis at the beginning, it behooves mankind to gain their life and to advance. And since the usurer takes another way, nature herself and in her follower disdains he, or elsewhere he puts his hope. But follow now, as I would fain go on, for quivering are the fishes in the horizon, and the wane wholly over Chorus lies, and far beyond there we descend the crag. Canto 12, last one for the night. Descending by a very rugged way into the seventh circle, where the violent are punished, Dante and his leader find it guarded by the Minotaur, whose fury being pacified by Virgil, they step downward from crag to crag, till drawing near the bottom, they catch sight of a river of blood, wherein are tormented such as they have committed violence against their neighbor. And these, when they strive to emerge from the blood, a troop of centaurs, running along the side of the river, aim their arrows, and three of their band opposing our travelers at the foot of the steep, Virgil prevails so far that one consents to carry them both across the stream. And on their passage, Dante is informed by him of the course of the river, and of those that are punished therein. June? Hey, get down. Chaos, I tell you. The place where to descend the bank we came was alpine, and from what was there, moreover, of such a kind that every eye would shun it. Such is that ruin as which in the flank smote on this side of Trent, the Adige, either by earthquake or by failing stay, or from the mountain's top from which it moved unto the plain the cliff is shattered so, no path 'twould give to him who was above. Even such was the descent of that ravine, and on the border of the broken chasm the infamy of Crete was stretched along, who was conceived in the fictitious cow. And when he us beheld, he bit himself, even as one whom anger racks within. My sage towards him shouted, Peradventure thou thinkest that here may be the Duke of Athens, who in the world above brought death to thee? Get thee gone, beast, for this one cometh not instructed by thy sister, but he comes in order to behold your punishments. As is that bull who breaks loose at the moment in which he has received the mortal blow, who cannot walk, but staggers here and there. The Minotaur beheld I do the like, and he, the wary, cried, Run to the passage, while he is wroth, 'tis well thou shouldst descend. Thus down we took our way o'er that discharge of stones which oftentimes did move themselves beneath my feet from the unwonted burden. Thoughtful I went, and he said, Thou art thinking perhaps upon this ruin, which is guarded by that brute anger which just now I quenched. Now will I have thee know, the other time I here descended to the nether hell, this precipice had not yet fallen down. But truly, if I well discern a little before his coming who the mighty spoil bore off from Dis in the supernal circle, upon all sides the deep and loathsome valley trembled so that I thought the universe was thrilled with love, by which there are who think the world oft times converted into chaos. And at that moment the primeval crag both here and elsewhere made such overthrow. But fix thine eyes below, for draweth near the river of blood, within which boiling is whoe'er by violence doth injure others. Cool. Not only in a river of blood, but being boiled in a river of blood. O blind cupidity, O wrath insane that spurs us onward so in our short life, and in the eternal then so badly steeps us. I saw an ample moat bent like a bow, as one which all the plain encompasseth, conformable to what my guide had said. And between this and the embankment's foot, centaurs in file were running, armed with arrows, as in the world they used the chase to follow. Beholding us descend, each one stood still, and from the squadron 3 detached themselves, with bows and arrows in advance selected. And from afar one cried, Unto what torment come ye, who down the hillside are descending? Tell us from there, if not, I draw the bow. My master said, Our answer will we make to Chiron, there nearby. In evil hour, that will of thine was evermore so hasty. Then touched he me, and said, This one is Nessus, who perished for the lovely Deianira, and for himself did vengeance take. And he in the midst, who at his breast is gazing, this is the great Chiron, who brought up Achilles. The other Pholus is, who was so wrathful. Thousands and thousands go about the moat, shooting with shafts whatever soul emerges out of the blood, more than his crime allots. Near we approached unto those monsters' fleet. Chiron an arrow took, and with the notch backward upon his jaws he put his beard. After he had uncovered his great mouth, he said to his companions, Are you aware that he behind moveth whate'er he touches? Thus are not wont to do the feet of dead men. And my good guide, who now was at his breast, where the two natures are together joined, replied, Indeed, he lives, and thus alone me it behooves to show him the dark valley. Necessity and not delight impels us. Someone withdrew from singing Hallelujah, who unto me committed this new office. No thief is he, nor I a thievish spirit, but by that virtue through which I am moving my steps along the savage thoroughfare, give us some one of thine to be with us, and who may show us where to pass the ford, and who may carry this man on his back, for 'tis no spirit that can walk the air. Upon his right breast Chiron wheeled about and said to Nessus, Turn, and do thou guide them, and warn aside if other bands should meet you. We with our faithful escort onward moved along the brink of the vermilion boiling, wherein the boiled were uttering loud laments. People I saw within up to the eyebrows, and the great centaur said, Tyrants are these who dealt in bloodshed and in pillaging, Here they lament their pitiless mischiefs. Here is Alexander and fierce Dionysius, who upon Sicily brought dolorous years. That forehead there, which has the hair so black, is Azalon, and the other who is blonde, Obitso, is of Este, who in truth up in the world was by his stepson slain. Then turned I to the poet, and he said, now he be first to thee, and second I. A little farther on the centaur stopped, above a folk who far down as the throat seemed from that boiling stream to issue forth. A shade he followed us, a shade he showed us on one side alone, saying, he cleft asunder in God's bosom the heart that still upon the Thames is honored. Then people saw I who from out the river lifted their heads, and also all the chest, and many among these I recognized. Thus ever more and more grew shallower that blood, so that the feet alone it covered. And there across the moat our passage was. Even as thou here upon this side beholdest the boiling stream, that eye diminishes, the centaur said. I wish thee to believe that on this other more and more declines its bed until it reunites itself where it behooveth tyranny to groan. Justice divine upon this side is goading that Attila, who was a scourge on earth, and Pyrrhus and Sextus, and forever milks the tears with which that boiling it unseals. In Renier de Cornetto and Renier Pazzo, who made upon the highways so much war. Then back he turned and passed again the ford. So a lot happened in this one. The thing that stands out to me most, the future knowing shades, bodies, shades, I guess. How like embodied the descriptions of things are in this particular set of cantos. Thinking of smelling and of like hearing, and then the specificity with which the punishment of like being boiled in the river of blood got meted out, depending on how like bad you were. Anyway, this felt a lot more fully embodied than the last few cantos have been. Anyway, that is it for tonight, for obvious reasons. So until next time.